Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Inside Artesian Football here on WREP 15 Sports and the MHS Rewind YouTube channel. I'm your host, Eric Meyer, joined as always by Artesian head coach Carter Whitson. We start this for year number 3. Again, we appreciate you taking time to come in here.
No problem. Excited to get it started. Saw the new intro where you guys have been working your off season just like we have, so that's awesome.
You guys have been doing a lot of work in the off season, and we'll get that in a second. But let's go back to last year, kind of a breakout season really for your team. Really a continuance of the end of your first year. Didn't end how you wanted it to, but had great success, a great group of seniors. Can you reflect, talk a little bit about what went on last year with the ball club?
No, that absolutely. That was a special group, and we had a good year. And we've talked about this off season. We had a good year. We did. We won 8 games and felt like we should have kept going in the playoffs, and we were anxious to see Decatur again in the next round, but Coach Mo at South does a good job and gets his guys ready for the playoffs, and they were really patient that game and kind of beat us when I don't think, I thought we were a little bit better than them. They just played better and they won that game. So you got to give them credit. You can look at those seniors and, man, it broke their heart. They expected us to go. They expected us to keep playing. They didn't expect that double overtime last-second loss, and, I mean, you could just see on their faces. So it was a great group. It was a really fun group to work with. Guys there will be a handful of them that I'll probably work with in the future. I'll hire some of those guys as young coaches that want to get into it, but really good group, and they kind of set a legacy for this group that's now a senior group.
Like you said, setting a legacy, their second year really with you in the program and having that tremendous success that, like we said, really started the second half of your first year on the field in terms of wins and losses. Great start you got off to, ranked second in the state of Indiana as well. Let's fast forward to this year, though. Gone are a group of over 20 seniors, and so you're not, though, really looking at a rebuilding. You're just looking at simply getting and keeping the ship moving in the right direction. You've got a good senior class, another pretty large senior group, and some kids with some skilled players that you're going to throw in there as well. Can you talk a little bit about your expectations and what we can expect to see this year out of your ball club?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We lost some really key players. The thing that's been exciting about this offseason and this summer is even though we lost some really good players in some really key spots, we got new kids that I'm very, very confident in at those spots. So maybe they don't have as much Friday night experience, but these guys have played a lot of snaps. They've had a great summer. They've competed against each other for some starting spots, and that's always healthy and that's always good, so nobody feels like they can walk in and say, I got it. You got to keep getting better. So, yeah, we lost a handful of good ones, really good ones, and I think we've got some of those key guys that are back. We've got some veterans that are now seniors that we've got 3 kids that are 4-year starters. That's guys like that are hard to find. So yeah, we lost some, but I'm really excited about this senior group too.
You talked a little bit in the open to the show about the fact that you guys have been putting in a lot of work this summer, and really athletics at the high school level has become a year-round thing. You have to work at it year-round because everybody else is working at it year-round. Can you talk a little bit about how the kids have performed and some of the things that you guys have done in the off-season getting ready really for Friday night here against Bedford?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it started pretty early. After we got beat by Bloomington South in the sectional championship, there was a staff meeting pretty quickly after that to talk about what do we have to do to change and what do we have to do to not just have a good season but have a great season. It's kind of been our off-season motto is good versus great. We've been good. To come in that first year and win 6 games and then the second year to win 8 games, that's good. We're tired of being good. We're ready to be great. So we got after it pretty early, and then the kids, they got back in the weight room. Guys that were playing second sports were playing those second sports, and it's always good for them to get away. And then, when June 5th came here, we had over 70 guys there, just 10th grade through 12th grade almost every day. We had a great attendance in the summer, and I know there are a lot of places around here that don't have that, and it gives us a huge advantage early in the season.
Gives you a huge advantage. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you try to do in the summer with the kids to try to get them ready?
Yeah, we go, and we're pretty much there Monday through Friday every day, and we start at 9 o'clock. In the summertime, we're allowed allowed to have 12 padded practices. So those are uppers, shoulder pads, and helmets, and it's not tackling each other, but it's full speed practice. So we'll kind of space those out in the middle of, it's my Artesian hour warning.
That's all right.
There you go.
Get you ready for
We'll
it.
space those out in the middle of the summer to not have 12 padded practices right back to back to back to back. That way it kind of keeps it fresh, and football can get monotonous. So we try and space it out, the lifting and running days with those practice days in the summer.
Let's talk a little bit about the team this year. We mentioned that some of the people that are coming back and those kind of things. Let's talk a little bit specifically, and we'll start on the offensive end, because when you came in, that's really what people were looking for, looking at with your experience at IU and you're at Oklahoma as well, the wide open, the spread offense. What can we expect out of the offense this year, personnel-wise, and some of the things that the fans will be able to see on Friday nights?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in, as a high school coach, I have to adapt each offseason to who my kids are. I think, if some of those old school coaches get stuck in their ways of doing the same exact thing every year, well, your kids are different. And the difference in, being at Martinsville, being at any high school, and then being at IU is I don't get to choose my kids. So I get whoever shows up, whoever lives in the town. I don't get to go recruit. I don't get to adapt. I don't get to bring kids in that run my stuff. So we'll always adjust each offseason with what we want to do. Defensively, we're always going to be a stop-the-run first defense. I don't care what the scheme is. That's always going to be our mindset, so our kids are comfortable with that system, and regardless of who it is, we need to stop the run. And then offensively, year by year, game by game, you have to adjust. I think this year we'll be spread out a little bit more. We're a little smaller up front, and that that's going to keep us from just pounding it like we did last year with our big 215-pound quarterback and the big guys up front. We just run it right at you last year. Well, this year we've got a kid that can spin it pretty well and a backup quarterback that can throw it, and I think we'll have 2 out of the 3 best receivers in the conference. With an O-line, with 2 guys back and a few other guys with experience that, give us a chance to do some different things in this conference and give some people fits.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the players that you're going to expect to execute your offense, mentioning the quarterback that can spin it, some of the receivers. Can you talk a little bit about some of the individuals? I know you're still kind of trying to put pieces in place and things, but some of the individuals that people are going to see and hear their names, see their numbers on Friday night.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's really hard to talk about one specific kid at one position, because the one thing that we've done over the 3 years that I've been here is we've created some depth. So we do have the guys that will go out there first, but we feel really good about the guys that will go out there and let them rest for a second. And we got guys playing both sides of the ball. So, you said it and I said it. It starts with the quarterback. We're always gonna fight up front and be pretty good. And I think that's just a standard that we've set here. Coach Evans said, and now Coach Dilly's carrying on. But quarterback-wise, Xavier Tonitis is a senior. He's waited. He's been patient. He's played some JV. He's played some varsity. He's a kid that's really excited to have his chance, and he'll be the one taking the first snaps, and it'll be pretty special.
He'll be the quarterback back there. You mentioned a couple of the receivers and a couple of guys back. You're going to get Andy Myers back from injury, and also Matt Thomas will be out there once again. 2 of the big 3 receivers you think will have good years for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Matt Thomas. He was a 4-year starter, all conference his sophomore year, and then again, as we changed the offense a little bit last year, he's not getting as many balls thrown at him, so people can say it was a down year. He had a great year. He just didn't catch as many balls. Andy was great early in the season. He was phenomenal early in the season last year, and then rolls his ankle on the first drive of week 3, and we kind of, we don't get to see him again until the playoffs. So to have him full go and to have him full speed with those guys playing on the outside away from each other, it kind of makes it harder on a defense to focus in on one guy. And then, like we talked about, we've got depth. We've got other guys that can come play those outside spots, and we've got some guys on the inside that are dynamic. So we've got some kids. Again, another kid would be Craig Wesner, who's a senior. Again, a guy that's waited and been patient and learned and got bigger and got stronger. Billy Bias is another one that will play a slot receiver who is a senior playing both sides of the ball. Matthew LaFerry has grown up tremendously in the offseason of last year. We threw him in the deep end as a sophomore, and he's trying to grow up, and now as a junior he's got his confidence, and he's going to be a really special player too.
And then you look to your backfield. Last year, you kind of split time a little bit. You got one of those guys back. Speaking of dynamic, Tyler Cox showed flashes last year, and you're going to expect some of that same stuff out of him this year.
Absolutely. He's kind of like that water bug guy off Friday Night Lights. Booby Miles called him water bug because he's just a little scoot. He's hard to tackle in the open field. If you get Tyler in space, he's going to be extremely dangerous. And then the exciting thing that I have is as good as Tyler is, we can bring two guys in right behind him that are completely different and make people adjust. And those are our two linebackers, Weston Pemberton and Will Nix. So that three-headed monster at tailback is going to be really, really fun to watch. And you can see they're all different. They all do some things better than each other, so they complement each other. And then with Weston and Will playing both sides of the ball, it gives Tyler the opportunity to get more touches and play a little bit more on offense.
We don't want to forget one of the most important aspects of the offense, the offensive line. You mentioned it a little bit. It's not as big as what you've been, but you've got some experience, and you've got some guys that'll battle, like you said, in a group that's really solidified and had great success since your time here.
Yeah, we've got 3 seniors that'll be starters for us up front, and 2 of those guys are multiple-year starters, so that's always good to have. And then the guys that are filling in on those interior spots, there's a handful of them. So we feel really comfortable with going into Friday night with 8 or 9 guys that could start for us up front. And with us playing a little bit of both ways, we will see a little bit of a rotation, and we will play some different guys. And there are some guys that are learning multiple spots just to get on the field. So we always say we go how you go when we're talking about our offensive line. So if they're good, we're going to be good. So, and I think they will be.
Looking on the offensive side of the ball, let's go to the other side of the ball. Coach Randy McKinney's defense for the Artesians as well. And the past couple of years, we've talked really about the line. You had the 2 bookends that you had and the big guys up front. Really, I think when you focus on this year's team, you got to start with the linebackers. That may be one of the best 4A linebacking groups that you may see. Heavy hitting wise, they like to bring it. They all 3 can play.
You know, it's going to be hard to find, and we actually consider our 4th one a linebacker too. Plays a little bit of strong safety, but can roll down in the box and play. And the 3 returning guys are Weston Pemberton at Mike, and then Will Nix will come down from safety to play inside linebacker, and Jacob Burkett, another 4-year starter. So those 3 right there. Again, I don't know. I haven't seen everybody else in the state, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the best group. And then we go and scrimmage Columbus East, and we talk about it the weekend with coaches, and we thought Ethan Potteroff had the best scrimmage. So there's another guy that doesn't have as much experience, but he comes in and he's got those other guys that everybody talks about, and he has a great scrimmage Friday night. So really excited about that. Got some depth there too. And, man, just watch them fly around. They'll be fun to watch.
That's that linebacking core, but you've also lost a lot from the defense in terms of maybe big plays, some big splashes. We'll get to the line in a second, but let's move back to that secondary. Ethan kind of part of that secondary as well, even though he rolls down, like you said, to play that linebacking spot. Got some guys, though, at corner and the free safety. Can you talk a little bit about what you're going to expect out of your secondary on Friday night?
Yeah, one thing that we've really tried to work on this offseason is being a little bit more flexible in what we can do defensively. Obviously, we want to stop the run first, but yeah, Poot can go back. We call him Poot. Poot can go back and play a little safety. So can Burkett as those outside linebackers. It gives us some flexibility. But then at safety, at the free safety spot, we've got Jonas Stillman, a senior, that has been playing a lot as an underclassman, and now will have a role as the starting safety. And backing him up and splitting time will be Andy Myers. Andy playing both sides of the ball, led the conference in interceptions his sophomore year. And we didn't have him on there last year because we had enough depth, and this year he'll go back and play some more at safety. And then we've got 4 guys at corner that we feel extremely comfortable with right now playing. So we got 2 of them that'll go out first, but we got the other 2 that can come in right then, at any point in time and play, and that's Billy Bias. We talked about Billy on offense too. Adam Field, who will play a little bit of slot receiver also. Anthony Talent came out. Anthony's spending his first year with us and just had a phenomenal summer, showed up and really been a great surprise. And Matthew LaFerry, again, another guy that will play a little bit of both sides of the ball. And we lost 2 good corners last year, and we feel like we've got a handful of them that can replace those guys.
Now let's go to the front as well, because a lot of times it's one in the trenches. Can those guys up front keep those linebackers clean,
Right.
to do what they do. Who are you going to look at up front to contribute this year?
Yeah, that's another group that we lost all 4 starters. So when you look at us coming out there Friday night, you'll see a smaller group overall, all 67 of us or whatever. It's just a smaller group, but they're feisty and they'll fight and they're strong and they play extremely hard. So those guys replacing those seniors, Nigel Bryant's playing on the inside. Nigel will play a little bit of both sides of the ball. Jalen LaPasa, another interior guy that will play both sides of the ball. Malachi Pringle, as junior, will play defensive end and defensive tackle. He's got some flexibility. Jackson Kleesner is going to play both sides of the ball a little bit. And then Darius Cook, a senior, defensive end, can also play D-tackle. James Hicks, 57, can play defensive end, learning offense. And then a big transfer from Center Grove, Jaden Kistner's come in, play some nose guard, and he's one that actually does look the part, and he's a big old boy, so he's going to be tough to push around. So it's fun to talk about the defensive line when I don't just have to talk about 4 of them.
Right.
When there's 9, 10 of them that can play, we're a lot better. You can rotate guys in mid-drive and they don't get exhausted, and guys are playing both ways. It's been really fun to see those guys develop, compete, and just make themselves better all summer.
Talked about the offense, talked about the defense, the third component, sometimes the most overlooked, but maybe one of the most important that you really haven't had to worry about the last couple of years. It's special teams and having Caleb Urban back there as well. So you've got special teams this year.
Yep.
What are we going to expect to see out of the guys that are punting it and kicking it and all that kind of stuff?
No, I plan on coaching for about 50 more years, and I don't ever expect to have another Caleb Urban. He was really, really special, could do a bunch of different things, field goal, kickoff, extra point, onside, punt. He could do it all. So missing him will be huge. We've got some of the core guys back with our field goal unit, with our deep snapper, Trevor Mosgrip, and our holder, Craig Wesner. So those guys are comfortable. And then we've been working on a kicker. We're finding kickers. We've got 2 guys that are competing for the job right now that are soccer players. So I like guys that play multiple sports. These guys go out and compete. They play 2 games this week, and then Friday night will be their first varsity football experience. So Brennan Shoemaker and Jackson Fry are the 2 guys that will handle most of the kicking duties, whether one of them's kicking extra points and field goals and the other one's kicking kickoffs. We'll see. And then punt-wise, again, another thing that we're looking at. We're still continuing. We've got a handful of guys that can do it. We've got a good deep snapper. We've got a simple scheme that we can do. So we'll have somebody back there that can kick it, and hopefully we just don't punt very much.
All right. Hopefully not. We'll be in the end zone, a lot of extra points. Offense, defense, special teams for the 2019 Martinsville Artesians. Kind of got a first look at it on Friday night in almost a real setting, the controlled scrimmage against Columbus East. Can you talk a little bit about how you thought your team performed against what is perennially a very, very good ball club?
Right. This is, we talked about it before. We talked about it after. They're a 5A football team playing up in 6A this year because of the success factor. So that's a team that knows how to win, that knows how to work in the offseason. It has great numbers. It has great size and great coaching. And I felt like Friday night, I felt like we got after them pretty good. We came out and maybe we're going to throw it around a little bit more than maybe they were prepared for with what they're seeing all summer. And I know they don't game plan it and we didn't game plan it, but I felt like our kids competed more than the schemes, because the schemes really don't matter. Just playing physical and competing and making competitive plays was exciting to see us Friday night. Now the test will be, can we not get too confident in our success that we had on Friday night in a scrimmage, and see if we can carry that on to week 1.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from the contest against Columbus East on Friday night. There, the officials talking to both teams before the game. Talk a little bit about recruiting into officiating, and here we go.
That's the first play of the scrimmage, and there's Nigel Bryant. If you watch that on a different angle, you'll see Nigel take his guard all the way back into the tailback, and that was explosive. Again, those linebackers are there cleaning it up. This defense doesn't like to be talked about individually. They like to have about like that 6 or 7 guys on the tackle. And, sometimes the defensive linemen are keeping the linebackers clean. Sometimes the linebackers are keeping the defensive linemen clean. So it's a really good unit that's working well together. There's the first play of our scrimmage, and it was actually a busted route, but we make some plays. And again, I think I'll be a really good offensive coordinator whenever we have busted plays and scramble and make some stuff happen, because we got kids that can do it.
A little wiggle here.
Yeah, get on the first drive, and we get a 4th and 8 and run a little speed option and block really well downfield. Again, for all the praise I gave Nigel, he also knows if he got his block on that last play, we would have scored. So, we can keep getting better and learning from this. There's Will Nix carrying it. You saw Tyler the previous play, water bug, nobody can hit him in the open field, and then Will's going to come in and run you right over. LaFerry with his second catch of the first drive, that was on a 4th and 1. So we converted 2 fourth downs on that first drive, which was really exciting. And then we didn't show too much tempo. We didn't do too much tempo, but we ran a little bit at them and tried to get our kids prepped and get the referees prepped for how fast we can go. And Weston finished that one right there. There's the backup quarterback, Tyrus Martin, throwing to a sophomore, Philip Herbert. Philip's had a great summer. Really, we expect big things out of him as a sophomore. Again, there you see Will Nix, and that's a name you're going to hear a bunch over the intercom on Friday nights, and Weston Pemberton making those a lot of tackles. And there we go again. We get out and spread, and you see Matt Thomas. Matt Thomas is a special, tall, big kid out there that's hard to cover, and you're going to see some big things out of him this year. Again, here's the best play I can call. Something where our kids that are talented, that know each other, that work hard, can go and make a play even when it's busted. So that's exciting to see. We've worked on it a bunch this offseason of finishing plays, and it was good to see Friday night. Xavier hitting, again, Will Nix on a check down right there and getting some positive yardage. The key to our pass game is going to be great protection, and we're really good up front again. We think so. So, having those guys will be awesome and keeping the quarterback clean.
Look at some of the highlights. Not a lot of them. We weren't there for a whole lot of time, but you're moving a whole lot of people in and out and kind of got a little bit of a feel for how the scrimmage would go. The ones didn't play a ton. You got everybody in and got out of there like what you always say to me, we just want to get out of there healthy, and that's what you're able to do.
Yeah, we wrote it up on the board before. We were 0-0 coming out of this, so let's get better. Let's learn from it. Let's stay healthy, and we reached all those goals. So we're excited about that. We'll even get some kids back that didn't play in the scrimmage that will be healthy for week 1 and week 2. So that's good to have as we go throughout the season. Health is a big key for us. And, we need to stay healthy. We need those key players to stay on the field. And it was good to get out Friday night with that happening.
It starts for real on Friday night. It's a home game at Ciderwoods Field, Bill Ciderwoods Field coming up on Friday night, and it's the Bedford North Lawrence Stars coming to town. This is a Bedford team that had a pretty good season last year. They were expected some big things out of them, and boy, in the opener last year, you guys really laid it on the Stars. What do you expect out of Bedford this season? I know you haven't gotten a lot of tape on them, but what are some of the things you expect to see out of Bedford on Friday night?
Well, I know Coach Weber well, and he does a great job with that program, and he will have them more prepared this year than he was for us last year. We kind of went into that Columbus East scrimmage and was really, really bland to not show a new opponent what we do. And then we came out and, down there at their place, and they had a bunch of guys playing both ways, and we just tempoed and stopped the run and jumped on them pretty early. I'd love for that to happen. I don't expect it to happen just because, they're a well-coached football team and they're playing a bunch of seniors. They had they're very similar to us. They had a great senior class last year, but they have a bunch of seniors that are going to play for them this year. So it's not just a sophomore reloading team. It might not be the exact same guys, but I think they're starting 11 guys on offense that are seniors. So, they'll be prepared for us. They'll be ready or more prepared than they were before. But we're excited to get them up here. We're excited to play in front of our crowd. We need everybody out there, and it should be a fun night.
They're going to be missing their star quarterback from last year. He graduated. He accounted for 2,800 yards of offense last year, 700 on the ground, over 2,000 through the air. Really made them go offensively. They'll have a new one back there on Friday night. What do you expect to see offensive-wise out of Coach Weber's team in the Stars Friday?
Yeah, Coach Weber and them, they run their triple option. They do it out of a more a flexible way out of the gun to give them some different quarterback runs, but they live and die by the option, so they'll be really good at it. It's kind of, I don't want to say jankety, but it's just different than what you see a lot, so they can give you some fits. Again, with guys that have been in that system and been with Coach Weber and know that offense. So yeah, they got new guys back there, but it'll be the same type stuff. I think they will plan on throwing it around a little bit more on us because we are so focused on stopping the run. So it'll be a good test for our secondary. But yeah, you know, you talked about the team before. We jumped on them pretty early last year, and then they went out and won 9 games in a row. So that was a really good football team, and it showed what we were capable of last year. I know that they'll be really good again this year, and hopefully we can take advantage of us being really good week 1.
What are you going to expect to see them on the defensive side of the ball on Friday night?
You know, again, they're playing a lot of veterans. They have a few kids playing both ways, but not as many as last year. So watching their scrimmage versus Mitchell doesn't give us a whole lot of X's and O's that we can learn from, because Mitchell runs the craziest Rob Helms offense I've ever seen, and it was awesome. But we don't learn a whole lot of scheme stuff from them. If they're consistent with what they were last year, they'll be a 4-4 cover 3 with the ability to drop back into cover 4. They got a quick little D tackle that's always going to stunt and shoot the gaps and make some plays. But we've watched, we've scouted, we've evaluated, and kind of see what our game plan is going to be. And the good thing about it is we've been doing it for 2.5 months. So we talked about it after Columbus. I was like, other than special teams and cleaning up a little bit, we're prepared to play Bedford. So we're excited to get them here and finally hit somebody when it matters.
Keys to the game coming up. I know you really are kind of focusing on your team, but some keys that you think you guys are going to have to do well to come out with a win on Friday.
Yeah, and there's a coaching cliches all the time whenever you get this question.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the biggest thing I think for us all year with how we're going to be offensively is the turnover battle. We need to take care of the ball. We need 0 fumbles. There are going to be some interceptions that happen with us throwing it around as much as we are. But what we have to do as a whole team is get the ball back defensively. So you can talk about offensive schemes, defense. We have to win the turnover battle, and if we win 1-0, that's awesome, because that's exactly what we were supposed to do is have 0 turnovers. Now I want more out of the defense than that, but that's the first thing first that we'll talk about, and you can ask me that question every week, and we're going to keep rehashing it, and hopefully the kids hear it again and again and again, because it's one of the most important things we can talk about.
Excited? Still get little butterflies for this first game coming up?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a different
cat
guy
on Fridays. You are a different cat.
I've had to apologize to a handful of people on Saturday mornings for how I am on Fridays, but it's important. It matters to me. I was raised that way. My dad's a coach, and he woke me up. I remember my first game as a 7th grader. He woke me up that morning and had a quote for me, and I remember it every morning when I wake up on game day. It's different, and to go out there and physically battle and throw your body around and be mentally prepared, it takes a different mindset to get that ready. So I hope my kids see the look in my eyes in the hallways on Friday, and I hope they have that look because it works. So yeah, I'm a little bit different. I'm ready. I'll be nervous, but we only get a handful of opportunities at this, and we've worked really hard to be successful at those.
We'll stay away from you on Friday. We'll say good job after the game on Friday night.
Perfect.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Hey, Coach Carter Whitson here inside Artesian football. Martinsville coming up. The excitement back in the air. Get out there to Ciderwoods Field Friday night, 7 o'clock. Kickoff as Martinsville battles Bedford North Lawrence. If you can't make it to the game, tune in to the MHS Rewind YouTube channel. Catch that thing live, but get out and get a chance to watch the Artesians. They're exciting with the brand of ball that Coach Whitson brings here for the Artesians. As always, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. We'll see you there Friday night.
All right, thanks.
Artesian head coach Carter Whitson. I'd like to thank Coach Whitson along with Zane Spangler, who produced it.
Zane.
Zane did a good job this time, we
Great.
think. We'll see it afterwards.
We'll see.
But for Zane and Coach Whitson, I'm Eric Meyer. We'll see you again next time inside Artesian football.